Welcome back to my inner sanctum. I'm your hostess, Countess Elizabeth, mistress of the macabre. The great outdoors have always been a danger to humans. Many tales of survival and fending off animals in the elements. This is not such a tale. This is a tale that would seem obvious to us as sheer stupidity, but sometimes when someone does something so stupid, it is hard to turn away and stop looking. Today, we will visit remote Alaska and find out what happened to Grizzly man Timothy Treadwell, who, let's just say, became very acquainted with the brutality of nature. So let us go camping in the most remote, uncharted wilderness as we explore our grotesque curiosity. Timothy Treadwell was an American bear enthusiast, environmentalist, and documentary filmmaker. He's also the founder of a bear protection organization called Grizzly People. He lived among grizzly bears in Katmai National Park in Alaska for 13 summers. Katmai National Park is home to 3,000 Alaskan grizzly bears, most of whom weigh in excess of 1,000 pounds. For 13 years, Timothy Treadwell camped in many Alaskan parks, but Katmai National Park was his favorite, crawling and walking up close to bears and filming them, often attempting to touch both cubs and adults. Firearms are prohibited within Katmai National Park, however, bear spray is allowed, but Tim quit carrying bear spray for protection for several summers prior to his death. Treadwell often established his camp on or near bear trails. During his last season, Tim had also hidden and camouflaged his camp, calling it the Grizzly Maze, within thick alder brush in an effort to hide from park services, due to a new rule imposed by the Park Service which required all backcountry campers to move their camp at least 1 mile every 5 days. Not sure if this rule was imposed to prevent contact between campers and bears, but it is a rule that Treadwell did not agree with either way, so he kept his camp sort of hidden when he was planning to stay for an extended period of time. Almost from the start, the National Park Service officials were worried about Tim's behavior. According to Park Service records, in 1998, Treadwell was issued a citation by park rangers for storing a cooler filled with food in his tent. In late June 2003, Tim and his girlfriend Amy Huguenard arrived in Katmai and set up camp at Hollow Bay, which Tim referred to as the sanctuary. Amy was Tim's girlfriend and had been for a few years prior, having spent a few summers with him there in Katmai. Willie Fulton, who was Tim's pilot friend, dropped the pair off on September 29, 2003. Tim sent a letter back with Willie addressed to Bill Sims, who was the owner of the New Halen Lodge near Katmai, and in the letter he wrote, "A few bears at his camp were more aggressive than usual." Tim and Amy extended their stay 1 week in an effort to locate a favorite female bear not seen previously. Tim also writes in his diary that Amy believes he is hell-bent on destruction and that this would be her last season in Alaska with him, leaving him for good, and that she was looking forward to starting a new job and returning to California. On Sunday, October 5th, 2003, sometime between the hours of 11 a.m. and 12 p.m., Tim and Amy make a satellite phone call to Jewel Pavlovac, program director of Grizzly People, and there was apparently no problem at the time. Both seemed excited and in happy spirits, having located the missing female bear. Earlier that same day, Tim phoned his friend Willie Fulton to come pick them up on the beach the following afternoon. As scheduled at 2 p.m. on Monday, October 6, 2003, air taxi pilot Willie Fulton arrives at Khalifa Lake to transport Tim and Amy out of the area for the year. Whenever he gets out of his plane, he is approached by a large brown bear. Willie states, "It was rainy and foggy out that morning." After landing, Willie believes he sees Tim shaking out a tarp and yells for the couple, but receives no response. He was wrong about what he saw. He decided to hike up the path from the beach, and through the thick alder brush towards the camp, he notices a little bit of movement. When he is about 3/4 the way up the hill, he senses that something didn't feel right. Something seemed strange. He was hollering with no answer. He turns around and spots a pretty nasty-looking bear that he had seen on earlier flights, sneaking around slowly down the trail with its head down. He comments that it's just the meanest looking thing. Willie then takes off and flies over the campsite 15 to 20 times in an attempt to chase the bear away, and he sees what appears to be the same bear feeding on a human rib cage. But each time he flies over the camp, the bear begins to feed even faster. At 1:35 p.m., park rangers were contacted, and at 3:20 p.m., Ranger Ellis joins up with 2 other park rangers at the airport to depart in a Park Service Cessna 206 with Ranger pilot Gilliard at the controls. They are also accompanied by Ranger Daripol. Ranger Ellis also has park dispatch report to the King Salmon State Troopers as well as Alaska Fish and Game, requesting that the troopers meet at the Khalifa Lake near Tim and Amy's camp. At 4:26, the team arrives at the lake, and Ranger Ellis conducts a quick interview with Willie Fulton. Willie states that he could not be 100% sure, but he was confident something was wrong. After exiting the plane, the four began hiking up the path from the lake, yelling as they walked to help locate any surviving victims, and to alert any nearby bears of their presence. Ranger Ellis states that the visibility was so poor, with heavy growth of bushes and tall grass. The camp was located on top of a ridge and out of our sight. We had a radio contact with Alaska State Troopers, who were forced to park their plane 300 meters away and had to hike through the thick brush, so they elected to wait at the base of the hill until troopers could join up. Ranger Ellis was standing near Ranger Gilliard and Willie Fulton to his left. Ranger Durnpole was slightly ahead of Gilliard when Gilliard suddenly yells, "Bear!" while pointing to the right. All four began yelling in hopes that the bear would see them and move away. Ranger Ellis states that he perceived that the bear was well aware of their presence and was stalking them. Ranger Ellis, armed with a .40 caliber handgun, begins to fire, along with Gilliard and Durnpole, who are both armed with 12-gauge shotguns. They began to unload slugs into the bear. Ranger Ellis fires 11 times while Gilliard and Durnpole shoot 5 times, dropping the bear 12 feet away. "That was cutting it thin," stated Ellis. At about 10 seconds, the bear dies, and Willie Fulton then reportedly says, "I want to look the bear in the eyes," and then states that he is sure that this was the bear that chased him back on the plane earlier. Human remains were then found buried by the bear near the campsite, which was in a bushy area with poor visibility. 2 tents were discovered, one for gear and the main tent used for sleeping. Both were collapsed and torn, however, there was no evidence that the bear had pulled the victims from the main tent. In front of the main tent was a large mound of mud, grass and sticks, 5 feet long, 4 foot wide, and 3 feet high. After moving the clumps of dirt, Ranger Ellis recalled seeing fingers and an arm protruding out from the pile. Food was found in the camp, secured in 4 or 5 metal bear-proof containers, as well as open snack food found untouched inside the sleeping tent. Both Tim and Amy's shoes were also found neatly still at the place of the entrance to the main camp. Investigators combing the area around the campsite discovered what was left of Timothy Treadwell. His head was connected to a small piece of spine, and what had been described as a frozen grimace on his face. His right arm and hand laying nearby with his wristwatch still attached. Meanwhile, searchers excavating the bear cache back at the camp discovered Amy Huguenard, whose arms and fingers had been exposed to the daylight when investigators first entered the camp, appearing as though she was peacefully asleep, except that her body, like Tim's, had been mostly eaten by the bear. Later, as the helicopter had been loaded, a second smaller bear, approximately 3 years old, seemed to be stalking the Rangers and was shot and killed as well. Video and camera equipment were also found at the site and later analyzed by the Alaskan State Troopers, where it was discovered that the last remaining 6 minutes of videotape had captured the sounds of the attack, but the camera cap did not film the attack. The first sounds from the tape are from Amy. She sounds surprised and asks if it's still out there. Apparently, either Tim had asked Amy to turn the camera on, or Amy turned it on out of reflex. At any rate, the attack was in progress when the camera was turned on. The next voice was Timothy's as he screamed, "Get out here! I'm getting killed out here!" Well, that was truly a grotesque tale. Those were the last moments of Grizzly Man Timothy Treadwell. I feel particularly bad for his girlfriend who wanted to break up with him after that season of camping. But you know what they say, birds of a feather flock together. So be wise who you choose to be your friend or partner. Sometimes that choice may take you down a deadly path. May their souls rest in peace. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe, like, and share if you would also like to keep exploring our grotesque curiosity. We will meet again in the darkness of the night.